take care of your virtual self. Yeah? How many of you are like, are there bloggers still? Or is that a new thing, something new? When I was going, are there bloggers now? Can you make a living as blogger? You can? Who makes a living as a blogger? I hear that like you can major, and I know that there's some universities now have you can get a major, a degree in playing video games. Can you believe that? That's actually a profession because you can make a lot of money, but the parents really don't ascribe to that. So we are definitely changing. In my 20-something years as a monk, I can't believe it. From like, no cell phone. We had to pay for our emails back then. Who paid for their emails? I had to pay for mine. I had Netscape account. Remember Netscape before AOL? Come on, Netscape, come on. I was rooting for Netscape. Sorry, just gelling with you. Sister Boingim gave out her playlist. Give out my playlist. Most of the singers and musicians, she said, I have no idea who they are. I have to update. How many of you guys know Depeche Mode? What? Really? That's such. I was part of the New Wave. You know New Wave? New Wave, come on. Really? That's coming back? That was pretty. No, I hope Hairspray never comes back. That's why I have my hair like this now. It's like such much suffering. 15 minutes, I have to like lean down and make sure it like angles a certain way and then spray it, and I have to stay there until it dries. And then I lift my head up and it's like, New Wave, yeah, pretty cheesy. But I grew up in that kind of age. I don't know, so long as I think about all my favorite bands, but can't think of any right now. But U2, yeah, U2 is kind of like generation, right? How about REM? Yeah, Morrissey? Yeah. Oh, Lou Reed? Wow, you guys still got some good stuff. Fine Young Cannibals. One. I'm getting you guys. I want to trump you. About database. Cowboy Junkies. Oh, a few. Okay, good. I was just trying to check to see what kind of how outdated I am. So thank you, everyone. It's our last day. We're still in the retreat. Some of us have probably had to rush our way home or catch a plane and so on. I got to see and say goodbye to a few and wish them well. And as I was doing that, some part of me wants to go home with them and help them set it up so that they don't, get into their, habits and so on. Like there's a part of me that wants to go home with you and help you set up and then hook you up and get a sangha for you, and like it's my fatherly, motherly energy. That I know it's tough out there because I've also had home visits, and it's tough. It's going back, and the environment and the culture and the society is not very supportive of a mindful way. So this is something we are aware of what we're up against. What we're creating here as a new way of being. What is it? Some of the lines: redefine society. Come on, wake up. Something. let's remodel and let's change the norm. So this is something aware that that's some of the environment that we will be heading to. We recognize the present moment. We're still in Deer Park Monastery. In a few hours, we'll be on the freeway, dodging. So this moment is a very precious moment, because you know you've had a week here, and many good things you were able to touch, as well as good in the sense that they're real, and you were able to see a lot of things that you didn't have time for. A lot of us cried, and a lot of us had to look at stuff, and that's really good. So, a good time doesn't mean it's always yay, fluffy, but a good time is that you're really who you are, and you accept yourself wherever you are, including all the pain and suffering. And that's okay, that's part of the process. Sometimes we're so busy in our lives that we don't have that. So let's breathe with 3 sounds of the bell to recognize that when we know, some of the things that young people are up against, how precious, how privileged we are to have 1 week to be in nature, to be among friends who are kind, who are gentle, who are smiling all the time, and who are really trying their best as well to be themselves. So let's close our eyes and give a smile to ourselves for having gone through this week. All the things that were touching our heart, the tears, the laughter, the joy. We also send a little of that energy to all our friends who came here with us in our circles of sharing, who listened to us, who saw us, who recognized us, who had the courage to open up. We smile to them for having gathered here, giving support to this beautiful gathering. Let's breathe with that, aware how precious it is to have like-minded friends, a community, a spiritual community. Breathing in, I smile to myself. Breathing out, I smile to all my friends. Dear respected teachers, dear beloved community, today is the, what is it, the 14th? 13th of August. Are we in August? April. I knew it started with an A. I had to write it today. So you see how important dates are to us. April 13th, the year 2024. Yes, and we're still in Deer Park, and yeah, we're very lucky to have this mountain surrounding us. This beautiful environment to be practicing. This very still kind of pristine land. Here, the native people call it Kumayai. Yeah, and if you're lucky, you can hike down in some of the valleys, and you find rocks where they have holes that they used to make food from the acorn. So we're not the only inhabitants here. Many in the past have been here, and we honor them, and we continue to bring peace and help people live in harmony with nature. So in a way, we are aware of them, and we continue all the ancestors of the land here. And this is a very beautiful way now. I think many young people of our generation are becoming more and more aware of the land that we live in, and to pay homage to that. It's very beautiful. It's in Vietnamese tradition, Asian tradition, that's also very prominent as well. It's to know the land and to be grateful to the land. That includes all the animals. And I remember in my house when I was growing up, there's always a Buddha, the Earth Buddha, Earth God. They always put it on the ground, directly on the ground. You can't like have something obstructing it. It has to like touch the ground. I always like to put it on a pedestal. My grandma would like put it on the ground again. Yeah, it's very interesting that in our culture there's a lot of ancestral worship, or paying homage to, but also paying homage to the land. And we're aware of that we're not just human beings like out of nowhere. So this is something. I took a hike, a jog yesterday with Brother Aaron, and it was so nice up the valley and come down. It's just right out of our door, and you have like nature to replenish our energy. So we're very grateful for that, for all of our land ancestors, the land, the animals, the coyotes, the frogs. So this is something I'm very hopeful, because more and more the young generation, we're becoming more aware and more tolerant, more, how you call it, expansive of awareness of our place in the world, and not just what we're fed in history books and the news. And that's one power of the internet, that we can research and check our facts and our history and revising it. I just want to acknowledge that. And I want to take a moment also to acknowledge that when we don't know our history, that we can repeat it. And this is what's happening in Gaza with the Palestinians, as well as to what happened to the Jewish people in Germany, and so on. You can go on. Same thing with Vietnam and Asia and China and the indigenous people in the Vietnam area. So every group of people has a history of violence and destruction, including the Vietnamese history. And this is something we're slowly waking up to, that when a group of people don't have their history resolved, just like us as a human being, our personal life, but we don't resolve the trauma, the violence, the things that happen to us. The same with the group of people. That if that doesn't get healed and get reconciled, that we continue, we'll do that to other people, to our friends, to our colleagues, to our family members. So that's how karma perpetuates, how unskillful act. This is something to slowly start to see the world like that. It's not evil or good, but unskillful. Okay, there's no, but I mean, people argue with you that, so don't get into that. You know, they are evil. Yes. You know, there are evil people in the world. But if you look deeply, if you grew up like them, if you were oppressed, if you were fearful, you grew up in a society that was all of education and everything is prescribed a certain way, then you'll grow up with a certain kind of way of looking at things. Those are evil people, those are foreigners, those are, white people, and, you have labels, and you begin to hate. But now you're a practitioner, you can't have that excuse anymore, because now you see we also suffer, and we also cause suffering because of the way we look at things. You see that? So someone who causes suffering, someone who can actually kill children in a school, if you look at their history and you study their upbringing, their mental state, the pressure that was psychologically put onto them, you can see how we created them. And this is the same individual as well as a collective. So please, incorporate that way of looking with your eyes so that you don't create toxin for yourself. So what's happening in the world right now, what's happening to our country with politicians and groups and institutions that are, creating more hate and division, use the eye of unskillfulness. People do not know what they are doing because they're ignorant, or they've been propagandized in a certain way. They've been indoctrinized in a certain way. So you don't harbor hate. Of course, you don't agree with their viewpoints, but at least you don't have hate. You see the difference? Unskillful people cause suffering. They drop bombs. They press buttons because they just don't know, but they have a certain framework. And this is how I've been really trying my best to deal with the situation that's happening, because it brings up a lot of memory from Vietnam and our family, and what happened in Vietnam as well. You look at the news, the newspaper, in the 60s, in the 50s, Vietnamese people were barbaric people, and they call them gooks, and they had all these names. It's the same. So it's a kind of, if as a human family we don't, but we're beginning to wake up from that. I think we're very, how do you call it, the tip of the flame, you call it? At the end of the 20th and the beginning of the 21st century. So, wake up retreat and teen camp, if you ever come, you'll probably come as staff if you want to experience that. The teenagers are so aware of what is going on, and their tolerance of differences is incredible. So teen camp, wake up retreat, they give me a lot of vitamins, the spiritual vitamins. Because you look a generation forward, you're like in the news, oh my God, they behave like adolescents. So I have to okay, unskillful. They don't know what they're doing. So every time you feel that kind of, oh my God, you come back, breathe, and remember what I shared, okay? They are not skillful because they have been raised to have a certain kind of view. And I also give hope to them. That takes a little bit more meditation. That they also are Buddha, those who are causing harm. Can you believe that? That's a tough one. That they also have the potential to be a Buddha. Those who are causing destruction and pain. That's a real, in the time of the Buddha, there was also a lot of violent people, and some of them became monks. So this is something not made up. Mm. Yeah, so let's just take a moment to send some energy to our friends on both sides that are in conflict right now in the war zone, in Ukraine, in Africa, in Gaza. So we'll listen to one sound of the bell, and let's send the energy that we generated here to these places on the world out of ignorance, fear, pain. They cause other human beings, children, mothers, and families a lot of pain. So let's breathe with one sound of the bell. Breathing in, I bring this energy of peace that I have generated for 1 week. Send my love all the places that are witnessing destruction, war. Can open our eyes. Thank you for that. How many first time in Deer Park? Or how many first time doing anything sort of borderline Buddhist? Yeah? Okay. Yeah, it's strange. I sometimes I don't identify myself as a Buddhist. I'm undercover. I really, that was my first initial intention to go undercover and figure out if these monks and nuns are for real. It's like, do they really smile all the time, man? And Sister Chang Kong, it was in San Diego, and she said, I can buy you a ticket. You can follow Thay and the monks and nuns around for 3 months. He was doing a tour of the East Coast, Midwest, and East Coast. And I was like, free ticket? Wow. It was a great opportunity. So that Monday, instead of going to work, I took all my laundry out and put it back in my duffel bag and went to Santa Barbara for my first retreat in English. The retreat I just came back home from was a Vietnamese retreat. I always want to reconcile and meet nice Vietnamese people. I didn't like Vietnamese people. I grew up with a lot of non-Vietnamese. And so we call it reverse discrimination in the 80s, And so I went to retreats to heal myself, to say, Vietnamese people are nice. They're quiet, they're gentle. And so it will be my first retreat going to English speaking. I call up my boss and say, can I have a couple more weeks? And he said, sure, no problem. He was an ex-hippie. He's a yuppie. They call him yuppies. A hippie that became successful. Anyways, I followed the monks and nuns around, and they just figure out who are these people? Are they really? I was very cynical or suspicious of happy people. That's how LA. That was. If you ever live in LA, if you live long. I mean, I've been. Shoot, I shouldn't be so harsh on LA. Someone wrote me a letter. It's like, Thay, you're so bad on LA. Come on. It's true. LA is beautiful. If you live there long enough, you will know where the jewels are. But it takes a while. If you're visiting, but it gets you I grew up very kind of cynical and very critical and very, singing, smiling. I think someone shared that somewhere. Yeah, it's just singing was really hard for me when I first came to Plum Village. It's like, I would always come to walking meditation late just so I can skip the singing. So just to let you know a little bit of my character, and this relates to me rediscovering Buddhism and who this Indian person was. This tradition is Indian in origin. It's not Asian. It's not Vietnamese. It's not Chinese. It's not Korean. And we're witnessing and we're experiencing at this very moment the Buddhist tradition taking root in America, on this continent, Turtle Island. It's not a part. We are part of history in the last 50, 60, 70 years. Anyway, I get, my spine gets all, ooh. and this is a great thing for me, because it's, the Buddha was a young man just like us. He was 29. He actually, left to go on the path at 29 years old. So I kind of relate to that, because I also ditched my career, and when I was 29. So I was like, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, don't want to do what your dad tells you. And he had a lot of suffering. I think there was a lot of dissonance as well, figuring what to do with his life. Because normally in Indian society, you do your growing up, then you do your a career, and then you do your spiritual practice. This is just to frame what he was growing up with. So it's expected for you to succeed and accomplish, and like in our language now, it's like do a startup. Get a startup, retire early. Have a family and like proliferate. Yeah. But many people are not wanting children. Back then in India, you're supposed to have family, and children was very important, and to establish yourself as a successful businessman. And then after that, then you can ditch all that, the material realm, and then you do the spiritual realm. So around 60, 70, you begin the spiritual path. And that's what a lot of Indian people were doing. Unfortunately, it was, I think it was only for men. So what the Buddha did was quite revolutionary, to have the spiritual path, not only while he was young. He was like, no, forget that. I'm not waiting till I'm retired age. So he began his spiritual journey when he was young. And that's, so not a lot of his relatives and in-laws are very happy. His parents were probably not happy. It's like, man, get a job that can pay for your rent. Don't, what is it? The language now, I don't know what it is, but it's like, find something useful, productive, practical. Go into a career that's practical. You wouldn't be a writer? What? A mindfulness coach? What is that? Someone told me they want to be a mindfulness, a spiritual leader. I was like, wow, you get paid for that? Yeah. So they call them mindfulness coaches now. That's the modern day, commodifying mindfulness. Like you can make it into something. So the Buddha was very young when he took to the path, and for him, he wanted to find like what is a meaningful and good life. What does he have that is worthwhile to transmit to his son? He had a son, Raula, but he's still very young. So I really relate to that, because I went through the same thing. I studied and trained as an architect. I worked for 4 years, and it just made me become more selfish and like self-centered, and just not fulfilled inside. Even though I love architecture, but the corporate world is you got to survive, and so you become kind of like what the culture is, and it was hard for me to resist. So this is the beginning of my spiritual journey to actually discover what is mm, what I should be spending my time doing with my life. I've always wanted to help better the world. I went into architecture because I love art and math. And then my high school teacher said, go study architecture. And I just listened to her. Her name was Mrs. Blake. She's an angel in my life. Um, yeah, and then I've always had this aspiration to help better the world, in particular LA. Can you believe it? What is it? Student ideal? What is it? Naive student, freshman coming out. So I had all this dream of like helping society and like making LA more green. I suffer living in LA from what you call urban cement asphalt angst. It's like you ever felt that when I lived in Little Tokyo in the warehouse district. There's some days where I get so like this kind of like I have to climb on the roof and just lay on the roof and not see anything else but the sky. Is a kind of pain from living in a very hard environment. I don't know. Is this any of you feel that? Yeah, thank you. Woo! Yeah. I think am I the only psycho here? But I remember walking on the sidewalk and you see a plant in the between the concrete and you bow down to it. Who've done that? It was like, oh my God, I know how you're feeling. Yeah. That's how I grew up in LA. And when I drive in the freeway, I would feel so pain for all the trees who had to like deal with all our smog. And you see the leaves and you scrape it and there's like a whole layer of... So anyway, that's what happened to my heart living in that. And so in a way, I wanted to bring more green, more nature, more what you have touched here. Because that's one thing that we've lost, our connection to Mother Nature. So for me, that aspiration continued as I grew more and I met our teacher. And through the practice, he helped me heal. And one most important thing that he helped me heal was my anger, my resentment towards my father. That's why, just for that reason alone, I feel indebted to my teacher in the way he saved my life in terms of a bitter young man not talking to his father. So this is one thing that the practice helped me with. Realistically, it was like very... I grew up with a lot of resentment, and I try to go out and fill myself up, fill up the Friday nights and Saturdays, plug it up with all kinds of events and concerts, and spend a lot of money doing just stuff just to fill it up to run away from this pain that I had, because I didn't want to confront my situation with my dad. So this is the first. Then through meditation, I began to unravel a lot of things, as well as my ideas of happiness and what happiness is. So this is the journey, in short, of my exploration, and I continue to do that now even. And I hope that all of you are have that state of mind, rather than figuring out a career or what to do, but I see it as your life is to explore and to find deeper meaning than what is prescribed by our culture and our society, our education. So I was thinking about like how to title this talk, and it was because I have a series of talks. I have one that's called "How Do You Know Your Future?" So you want to here? I'm plugging in my How to know your future, and it's pretty cool. And there's another one. It's called How to Know If This Is the Path. This one is what to do with your one life. Okay, it's everybody wants, like, your age now is like, okay, what should I be doing? Where should I go with my career? And this is something very important to reflect and have time to look into, because this is it's a very has a lot of opportunities right now with what's happening with the climate. Yeah, usually when things are about to change, if you study history, human history, societal history, it's usually at the most tense moment where something, what's happening with our planet, what's happening with the divisions of people, and the tightening up of borders and calling each other names and so on. This is a very, for me, I feel a very good time for us to discover new ways to be in the world, rather than just doing what our parents did. So this is what I'll explore. So it's very important to understand our mind if we are to figure out what to do with our lives. And that's what our teacher helped me with, is to kind of figure out how our mind works. And this is, if you know that, then you know how you come up with notions about what you want to do, how they form, right? Because some of that notion causes a lot of suffering. And it makes us have, what's the word I heard a few times on this retreat, is indecision. I don't know where I heard it, but I heard it, kept hearing it. It's like, what should I do? What should I do? And this is a dilemma that a lot of us face, right? I'll share you a story. I don't know if I shared it. I don't know where I shared it. But I had a moment when I was in France, in the Plum Village, and I was cooking breakfast, and there was this thing of cheese. We were not vegan back then, and we had a round thing of cheese, and this woman was helping me cut the cheese. And we assigned her to do that, but she was like frozen. She didn't know where to cut it. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, just cut it. And I was like, no, but like, you gotta do it. She could not cut, she wanted to cut it right. Yeah? Like, she didn't know how to divide it and what is to make it equal and all that. So she was very afraid to make the first cut. And she had this total bodily thing, and I couldn't understand it. And I was like, and I can still feel that, the amount of suffering for cutting a piece of cheese. Talk about indecision. And she literally dropped the knife and went somewhere else. And came back and started doing, like, putting out the anyway, it was something that you didn't have to decide where to cut. I was like, I'll never forget it. So when I keep hearing indecision, I kept thinking of her. That, like, it's so, is that OCD or some, it's probably something really acute. I don't know if I'm using the right words, but it's definitely bodily and tight and, like, fearful and, like, it's just cheese. Cut it, and if it's wrong, cut it again. I'm sorry. I don't mean to make fun of it, but I know that's like a real suffering. And I had that. My thing was like, these mats. When I first came to the monastery, oh my God, I was like, this thing had to be lined up, and it would have to line up to this edge of this bamboo thing. And anytime someone switched it, I would find my way to come around to, like, correct it. How many of you have that? Yeah? I still have a little of that. Like, this tripod should be like this a little bit. Sorry, I just had to point that out. It's like, it's not perfectly lined up. You see the suffering of architecture training? Sorry, just trying to be funny here. So I think I wish you could stay here another week so we can like really, and we share, there are a lot of things that we need to learn and study. And our teacher is a description of how our mind works really helped me, not in that moment with my father, but later on as things arise in my mind. So I'll share a little bit about that. So what it is that we need to know how we form notions, which is our ideas, our thoughts, our identity, and so on, right? Because that's basically, our concept of ourselves. So this is, I hear this a lot, and a lot of you wrote to us before you came here, and we got to read it. And there's a lot of, a lot of kind of trying to find authenticity and find out who we are. So in our tradition, the mind, our tradition, you can look it up, Yogacara, and it's the teacher, the Indian teacher was Vajubandhu. So it's based from that kind of Buddhist lineage, okay? And in that lineage, it talks about, it sees the mind as a kind of an earth, a ground for us to cultivate. So it sees our minds as a place to lay seeds. And from those seeds, things will grow, okay? So this is a way of looking at it. It's not, like perfect, but it's a way that's helpful for us to, in our meditation, or when things come up, to recognize it. What seed is it touching? So we all have kinds of seeds down here, and this is called the store. It's like our base. It's unconscious, okay? And this has all kinds of seeds that are transmitted to us. So not just our genes don't just produce our physical, physiological makeup, but it also gives us a kind of character. How many times you hear like you're like your uncle, you're like your aunt, or like, and you grow up. I watch my niece grow up, and I can see her father, I can see her mom, I can see like, wow, my Chinese ancestor, my Vietnamese ancestor. So we also have characters, tendencies, impulses that have been transmitted to us. And that's a good way of looking at it. So they're like hidden right now in our mind. Like right now, your state of mind is calm, nothing is touched, but I can make you angry. If I comment on your hair or your skin color, and then all of a sudden, boop, now it's no longer hidden. It's no longer hidden. So we have hidden stuff down here, and then when you touch it, it comes up. You get angry. So that's a wonderful way to look at how our mind works, right? My father, he also has a certain amount of seeds, and so I would begin to understand it from his having escaped Vietnam. He has certain things. And mindfulness is another seed. Compassion, understanding, tolerance. kindness. So mindfulness is a very what we're practicing here. So it's our awareness. All of this is in what we call a mind consciousness, and this is thought consciousness. So mind consciousness is it's appeared in our mind. We become aware of it. So anything above this, you're like aware of it. Okay? And you're aware of your thoughts as well. There are thoughts happening. And then, of course, your senses are here. Your eyes, your ears, your nose, right? And it comes through, you see something, and it triggers a thought. You see it? And that's being a meditator, being a practitioner. You got to memorize this and get it down, because it's exactly how everything causes suffering or not. This is I wish they teach this in school, like from elementary school, you know. And this is how feelings happen. You have all kinds of feelings that come up. So what we're training here is to be mindful of our steps, our food, our breath. When we sit, what we're investing in and cultivating is our energy of mindfulness. Why is that important? That is the energy of awareness. When you're mindful of something, it brings your attention, you see? And you can use that same attention to look at your mind. Pretty cool. So when you have anger, you go, You stop, you breathe. You might take a break. You go outside and walk. And you be and you bring the anger into your awareness. Don't judge it. If you judge it, then you recognize, oh boy, I'm judging. Oh boy, I'm judging the judger. Ooh. How many of you do that? Sorry, that's such a habit. They told me not to do that. But you see the power of mindfulness? That is the liberation. That is what the Buddha found. It's so simple. We all have it. That's basically what he said. It's like, oh my God, how come nobody knows this? It's like, I can do a startup on this, man. I'll be a millionaire. So that's basically all he found, is that we have, and if you look at it in the human evolution, it is exactly what consciousness evolved. If you look at the animal evolution, the evolution of of awareness, there's many levels. It's just also childhood development. You follow children, and there's like a famous child psychologist who studied French, Piaget. Some of her amazing studies have found like babies, there's a point in their growth when they start to recognize each other. And she started to discover when that was. It's cool. You put a mirror, and they have no idea who's in front of the mirror. They don't have no self-identity yet. But there's a point where it's pretty cool. And there's another one where they have an idea of like when they see something, and then the person goes behind a wall, that person is still there. They know that they're behind the wall, but there's a point where they don't know what happened to that person. So you see, it's like they begin to have models. And so our mind has evolved to many levels of consciousness. So now we can actually evolve to a point now where we can imagine, we can fantasize, we can like do things that, with our mind. And this is the secret right here, the cultivation of mindfulness. So our teacher said that mindfulness is like the farmer. Okay, so the farmer is one that cultivates the land and is very discriminative of what to plant and how to take care of the land so that you have the kind of fruit that is more wholesome, more healthy, more conducive to well-being than, plants and fruits that cause suffering and ill-being. You see the the mindfulness as so there are things that we want to cultivate, and there are things that are not so healthy. Okay, so those things can remain dormant, and those can arise in our lives. There's certain notions and habits. So part of suffering and healing from our suffering is very related to these two things. We suffer because we have ideas and we won't let them go. Ideas about our father, our mother, about ourselves, and it's hard to let go. We call those internal knots, kind of like a big knot. Like a rope. It's very hard to untie. And so it's, get mental knots. Yeah. So those are the things that we hang on to, and it causes a lot of suffering, right? Or it could be our ideas, who we are, and so on. And if someone touches that, you see, and then we get a reaction. So those are our notions that we have, and then we also have habits that are good for us, and this is more behavioral. It's got there are patterns in our lives that are helpful, and there are some that are not helpful. Many of consultations of people having struggle after 11 o'clock. They have a hard time, because stuff comes up. And so after midnight, it's very hard for people. It's a kind of habit, as well as in certain environments, in the workplace, and this has biological roots. We're meant to survive, right? We're meant to, we're, what do you call it, a biological animal that used to be in the jungle kind of like, looking for danger. Now it's in our social environment, in our families, in our workplace. And so these things are still happening. So it creates us a lot of habits. And this habit was formed in our upbringing, in our childhood, the way our parents treated us, the way our siblings, our in-laws, and our schoolmates. So a lot of these things were triggered as we were growing up as a young person. Vulnerable, attacked, bullied, and so on. So these are how these seeds are how do you call it, fortified. Some of us are more fearful. Some of us are more, anxious, like they worry that they don't have enough food. I have that. I had to really work hard because my family grew up, having to hide our food in Vietnam. Back then, if your family is discovered that it can have food, then they come and they harass you and they make you pay, like the government back then. And so our family around food, it was like always this kind of like hiding. We had to I remember like going shopping and we had to hide a chicken underneath the vegetable. And we had to eat it in the back, and it was like this kind of like not letting people know that, we have enough food. So I remember like just practicing with that. And so I would like actually be last in line, purposely be there so that, deal with my anxiety of like, maybe I won't get enough. I gotta get there early. There's a lot of that generational stuff. So what I draw here is that there are some seeds that has been transmitted to us that are helpful, and some that are not so helpful. Okay? So begin to identify that. Now, as a practitioner, you're a scientist, you're a researcher. You still have suffering, but you're going to look into it. So you're not just a victim of it anymore. That is what Thay gave me. I began to like really look at all my luggage stuff. Yeah? Take it out, open it, have time for it. And you got to make time for it. If you're too busy, then it's like another thing. So having a spiritual dimension in your life, and many of you have come to me and shared that, and it's so beautiful that you're still young, like the Buddha, and not waiting until you're like 75. When is retirement? What is it? 65? Yeah, 65. Being a poster, retiring, going to Hawaii. Like, by that time, oh my God. So now is a good time to really have a spiritual dimension. What that means is not like you're a Buddhist or like, incense lighting kind of person. But what it means, spiritual, it means that you're looking deeply at the nature of things in yourself, in your parents, in your society. Sorry, I hope I'm not being cynical about things. Probably am. But so here in our lives, if you see our mind, there are things that are wholesome that arises, and then the farmer, remember the farmer? There are good habits, there are good ideas that are helpful. Identify those. Make a list. There are good habits that you have, that like you exercise, you run, whatever. And there are thoughts, there are notions. You're kind, you're compassionate, you take care of your friends, you take care of your mom. These are things that you want to continue to cultivate. See the farmer? You keep those. You love to fold your clothes. How many likes to fold their clothes? This morning I was folding my clothes. Oh, the joy. No phone, just folding your clothes. And I fold my clothes in a way, like if you press it, and I stack it up and I squeeze it under the thing, you don't need to iron it. I mean, if you fold it carefully, you will never need an iron. So this is my joy of folding clothes. And don't underestimate that. Those little things are you have to make, ever since I was taught to do that. And folding my bed, who likes to fold their beds? I love folding my bed when I wake up. It's such a joy. And so there are things that you do that are, how do you call it? They nourish your little kindness, little appreciation for your bed. And then I make sure and I thank my blanket, my pillow, It's like Mr. Roger, It's those things, keep doing it and keep thinking it. And find ways. If you lose your track, bring it back. And there's stuff that are good about you that you had, that you haven't been taking care of, then you try to bring it back up. Okay? So that is the farmer. Cultivate the fruits that will nourish your lives. Okay? For the ones that you have habits, and we all do, that come up that are not so helpful, and we have ideas about ourselves, the way we look, the way we behave, the way we are, they're not helpful. Look into that. Okay? So it's not just to repress it. That's like, okay, I don't like that part of me. No. In meditation, first is to stop, like we're learning. You slow everything down and you're just aware. So awareness is a kind of stopping. You see? You're not just automatic, like running. So stopping doesn't mean you're physically stopping. Stopping means you present, like our sister shared. Recognizing what that is. Is this helpful? Is this skillful? Is she, are they helpful? Are they skillful? Oh, that's not. See, you begin to see the world like that. That is the framework of how you can at least help better the world by the way you look at it. So you're not judging and you're not jumping to react. Of course, you'll do that once in a while because of your habit, and then you do beginning anew, like you learn, right? You recognize, you calm, and then you hold. So when we have feelings that arise that are uncomfortable, we can calm it, let it, like my first time experience that was my anger towards my father. I heard his voice and I was very angry. And it was my very first time because I had committed to sitting until the incense was finished. And I keep telling this story because it was a pivotal moment for me, because this first time I witnessed the anger in me subsiding and feeling grateful that I didn't slam the door, got up and slammed the door and let my dad know that I didn't like him. I was like, oh my God, I didn't do that. And I felt like, oh my God, first time I did flash back at my dad, And, that sounds silly, but for me, it was everything. And that was the beginning of looking at myself. So I found like, wow, the anger, if you stay a while, it goes away. So when you have a strong feeling, please change environment, go outside, walk. If you were caught like me sitting, just sit and breathe. But sometime now I go for a walk or I go for a hike. I go outdoors and I water all the other seeds that are positive when there's a negative that was overwhelming me. So remember that. A feeling is just a feeling. It will not last. And look into it. So it's not repressing our notions and feelings. But when you're calm, when your mind is calm, it's clear. Okay, calm will go with clear. And then you'll see more clearly when you're not in that emotion. So it's not like to repress and not look at it. You hold it and then you look into it, look deeply. And of course, you'll have understanding. And that is the power of meditation. And many of you, like in my Dharma sharing family, had a lot of insights. Right? You didn't have to go online. You didn't have to go to a book. You didn't have to go to some therapist. You had the insight. You have it. It's just a matter of making time, calming yourself, being in a good environment, having the right schedule for yourself so that it's conducive to having understanding and insight. And so when a negative emotion, a negative thought comes up, we will learn ways to bring it, subside it, bring it down, take care of it. Some of them will take longer than others, and you'll begin to know that. Recently in Japan, I was overwhelmed by an emotion, and that emotion is like behaving properly, kind of like just it's so tense over there in terms of like public behavior. It's so considerate that it's like you have to be considerate. And I blew up. I was like, I blew up my brother. Because I would do something, I'm just California, and And he kept apologizing in front of me, in front of the other. I hope I can share this. Definitely a personal moment for me, and I recognize what that was. I was very rebellious. I hate when. So anyway, he kept apologizing for me to the other Japanese for my behavior, and I was like, you don't need to do that, man. And I kind of like, I got really upset. So I share that to let you know, even after over 20 years, I still have like, don't tell me what to do. But then afterwards, I kind of like, look back, you know where that came from, right? Yeah, it's like, we hug each other, and dude, it's done. Nothing personal. It's just, a seed was touched. The whole trip in Japan was like, don't touch Phap Yum's seed, his bomb, a button, I have a very rebellious side. It's like, I hate being told what to do, and it just drives me crazy, and it blew up. And what I did was, I walked behind the group, and I was watching myself as I was kept following, and I recognized that. I knew what it was. It was like after a few days of being in Japan, it's just always like, just correcting, make sure everything is, and it got to me. And I just didn't have time to look at that. We're all on the move, and we're like traveling every day. So I didn't have that rhythm of like stillness and calm. So it came up. And I immediately took care of it, you see? I began anew, and then I looked into it. I shared with the brothers, like, hey, and I shared with the group too. It's like, this environment is intense for me, like being in the subway and no one is talking to you, but it's completely silent, and then everybody's like looking at everybody, but like, I was like, it was very hard for me, but I had to adapt. I began to adapt, and I began to reframe my notions, my ideas. I was bringing American culture to a culture and trying to say that, you should be more like Americans, which is not appropriate. So I had to understand more why people are like that. So it was a very, again, deep looking and understanding, okay? So anything you confronts you, that challenge you, you do this. Calm it down, look into it. This is the power of mindfulness. So this mindfulness is not just like, being in the present, enjoy. But when you're calm, you're clear-minded, you're fresh, like after 1 week, your mind right now is a good moment to look at your suffering, at your notions about who you are, your identity, and so on. Because your mind is very clear and non-judgmental right now, and not caught in a notion. So this right here is all of Buddhism, is to help remove notions. And this is what the Buddha found. So you go to education, you go through training and stuff, you accumulate ideas about like what we should learn to improve ourselves is like to learn more, right? Learn more ideas, accumulate. Well, the Buddha found out actually to remove all our ideas is another way of learning. Isn't that cool? It's the same thing. But Buddhists love to negate stuff like non-self. Things are impermanent. Things are empty. Indian logic is negate. Instead of building something, they remove it from the mountain. It's pretty cool, huh? It's a total awesome culture to balance the accumulation. For us, more is good. For them, less is even better. And so anyway, it's a challenge. And it's nothing dogmatic about it. Just look into it yourself, the more you have. And a lot of positive psychology now are finding out there's a limit to how much you can have. And then your happiness actually goes down. Depreciation. How many of you have a favorite t-shirt? Oh, yes. You won't let it go until it just tears apart. Yeah. And then you get a gift of all these other T-shirts, and you're like, oh man, ah. It's like, I wish they didn't appear. So when you get more donations and stuff, it diminishes if you're not careful. You think, oh, more T-shirts, good. But actually, it actually makes you devalue the kind of cherishing of this one T-shirt and how it feels, right? This is happening with me right now, so it's a little personal. Man, is that correct? So many of you, I looked at all the comments that people wrote. So this is called the 4 diligence, okay? 4 diligence. And then, so when something good arises, try to keep it there, cultivate it. When it hasn't arisen, try to bring it up. All right? So remember this diagram. Plus, minus, just, it's convention. When something negative, you try to like appease it, bring it down, look into it. When then something is not wholesome in you, that you no longer do, the habits, the ideas you have, just keep it there. Don't bring it back up. There are friends in your lives that you're very glad that they're not in your lives anymore. Because they bring up a lot of bad habits. And I know that's a dilemma with a lot of people. And here, finding purpose, meaning was a lot, shared a lot. In Buddhism, we call that having an aspiration. So look into that, because it's no longer about money and about fame. I think this generation, I read an article about like it's the employees, they have the upper hand. I don't know. It was basically mentioning like they're actually going to the interview and they're asking the company, like, what is your heart? What is your company about? They're like, they're so wanted by the company that they're questioning the company. Is like, what is your purpose? Do you have meaning in your company? Do you understand what I mean? So it's a very interesting that this generation, I don't know, it's generation Y, Z, or whatever, but it's really cool that we're actually asking, like, what's your purpose of your company? It's no longer to make money and to exploit other countries. So this is what's happening with, and of course there's love. There's a lot of mention of that, and relationships. These are all concerns that we've been looking at, right? And I'll just add here, community. Sorry, I just want to draw this diagram up. So I draw that diagram up, like to find meaning, to find our volition, our purpose. It's a very noble task, and that's very linked to having a spiritual dimension. And for me, I wanted to be an artist, and then they suggested I be an architect, and then I found out that through studying meditation and then like affecting the mind was even more important. And I saw that's where I wanted to dedicate my life to understand my mind, and then to help people. Even a nice building, but I was working on a project, and it's like $1 million house on the hills of Hollywood, and it's like the couple, I know by the end of the project they'll be divorced, because I would sit and have consultation with them, and it's like, why am I spending all of Saturday working on the design of this window for a couple that don't even know how to enjoy it, you know? And then I go to Vietnam and I meet this old man who lives in a hut. And I ask him about the war and everything. And he's always smiling and he's like so happy with like few little things. So a lot of experience kind of woke me up to really see that if our mind, the way it looks, is very important. So what in Buddhism they call a cultivated mind can do a lot of a lot of benefit, but an uncultivated mind can create a lot of suffering for ourselves and for others. So in terms of a spiritual dimension, this is what we're looking at in terms of finding meaning. So as human beings, we're very blessed to have memory, and we create meaning from that, right? With our family, with what we do. And I think this is something for all of us to look at. What is, and this practice helps us because it helps us unravel a lot of our notions of what happiness is. Look at what powerful people, are they really powerful? Look at wealth and see the detriment, the toxicity of wealth and what that does to a country, a group of people, to one individual. So you use meditation to look at it. You know all the wealthy, powerful people during the Me Too movement? Do you remember that? They were falling off like wilted fruits, you know. They were at the pinnacle of their fame and power, and then boop, boom, and then next week, boop, boom, boop, boom. You know, because power and fame and money comes with exploitation, sex, perversion. Do you remember that period? Wow, I was reading the news and it was just like, of course, nothing, you know, like karma. Like you sow the seeds in your store, it will come back. So this is something we have to look at in terms of our lives and what we do with it in helping better the world. And of course, love, as Sister Boygim shared about being present and using the mantra. Our relationships, and I think I shared that in the workshop on true love, to find a relationship not just with human beings, but with other elements like nature and relationship with, you know, the planet. So these are some things, you know, I hope you can continue to cultivate in your lives. And of course, the last is my favorite, kind of freedom. And that is related to letting go, okay? So we have a lot of ideas that we're holding on to, whether that's resentment or a kind of a knot, right? So in Buddhism, freedom is not like political freedom or some kind of like freedom to do whatever I want. But freedom in Buddhism is to be free from these notions and these habits that we have. And we need courage to recognize that, because it's kind of hard to really let go. So that's why cultivating the mindfulness energy, you have more strength, more courage, okay, to actually confront some of the things about yourself or the ones in your lives. That requires a little bit of determination. So those are very different elements of awakening. They call it 7 factors of awakening. And I wish we had more time to look into that, but please continue your study. And lastly, community. And I think all of you have experienced it here, to be in community. So please help us create more community and like-minded people, so that you can, you know, be supportive of each other, and you can touch all these seeds and without fear. Because outside, if you did what you did this week, you know, people would probably react to that, you know. There's a lot of crying. You know, you cried out there. It's like, no, don't go into that right now. Don't break down, you know. I don't know, I grew up in that kind of culture. Like, you lose it or something. Is it still like that? Yeah? No, really? I thought the generation was becoming more soft or sensitive. No? Yeah, there's a lot of judgment. Yeah, of being like, being, how do you call it, out of control. Like I'm bawling, and I see that the teen camp last year. Wow, we had a lot of young boys cry in my group, and the other boy would like hug him. It was so sweet. And one was going around like we used so much tissue. All the boys were crying. I was like, man, this place is like crying therapy, man. So it's really, really healthy to see that men are becoming more, vulnerable as well as, across the board, I think. So I'll duplicate myself and I'll go home with each one of you. So please take us along with you, okay? And we're very fortunate to have this place, and this place is for you. This is your home. If you ever feel like, your battery is low or like you're overloaded, your luggage is too full, please do not hesitate to come immediately here and take refuge in nature and just being here. Because this week, if it reveals anything to you, that you can have a week of this kind of energy in your mind, in your heart. And so if you don't find the support out there, please come back here. Someone in my group yesterday, I hope he's okay that I share this, he says it's like going to the dentist, coming to Deer Park. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, you come here and you're clean, all of my plaque is gone, and wow. And he's worried that he's going to go back, and then now how he's going to keep brushing. And I was like, oh, I know how that feels. But it's a pretty cool metaphor, huh? Like you go to the dentist and your teeth is like so fresh, so clean, and like, oh, and then first thing you do is go eat what? You see the metaphor? Yeah. So please find community so that you can continue to help each other keep the plaque from forming. And we thank you for being open and, helping our world, helping by helping yourself as well. So some of us in the area of some action, that's great, but some of us in our own particular scope of influence, we can help better by being a better person, less disgruntled. So there's many ways to contribute. So you don't have to all become like social, racial, environmental activists, but actually you can be one less disgruntled person on the planet and slowly gather many to do the same. So this is a way, our model of influencing the world and affecting change. So thank you for being, practitioner, and please help us resist the convention. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.